Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. Really excited to be moderating this discussion today about modernizing the talent acquisition function and what that looks like in an age of AI. I'm Courtney Vanopel. I am a senior reporter for HR Brew. I have four fantastic panelists who are very steeped in the world of TA and are going to tell us about how they're approaching this. I'll have them introduce themselves. Catie, I'll start with you.
Absolutely, thank you. It's great to be here. My role is the Global Head of Human Resources for LHH. We do end-to-end talent solutions, so everything from coaching, AI upskilling, all talent acquisition on the recruiting, executive search, perm, and staffing side, and then also outplacement services. I'm in a unique position today because I am CHRO for a group of about 2,500 recruiters, so I see it from both sides.
Fathima Jaffer, I am the head of early and emerging talent at TD Bank, and so that covers all of our internships, our co-ops, our graduate level programs, our pre-executive pipeline programs across Canada and the US.
Great. Jean-Luc Charles, I'm the Vice President for People and Culture, DE&I at EILEEN Fisher, the best company in the world. We make timeless women's clothing. You would look great in our product. So I work on across the entire span for the People and Culture function.
Hi, Carl Bernadotte. I'm at IBM, and I wear three hats there. I lead our global executive search team, talent acquisition, which is everything from campus hiring to professional hiring for software specifically, and our global talent acquisition coordinator team that does all of the coordination, operations, background checks, and all of that. Happy to be here.
Great. Well, before we get started, just curious from a show of hands, how many in the audience are using AI to hire talent right now in some way, shape, or form, just out of curiosity? Okay, so a good amount of people, I would say, in this crowd. To start off, I would just be curious to hear from a few of you about how AI has changed the way you hire talent. It's obviously dominating the conversations about recruitment and hiring right now, but implementation looks very different from one organization to the next. So has AI meaningfully changed the way your teams or your clients hire talent? And if so, what does that look like? Catie, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it has changed so much for everyone. I saw a stat the other day that the candidate volume has increased on average since 2022 of 9x. So we have, in many cases, the same or even less recruiters that are now expected to intake 9x the application volume, and many of those applications are fake or AI generated. And so where we've really seen the most significant change is, and that's just by necessity, is at the top of the funnel. So how do we vet those applications? And then since we do recruiting for our clients, how do we use AI to help with job description generation or candidate note collation? So, I find that productivity can be a little bit of a dirty word in terms of using AI to benefit productivity, but it really is about productivity and how do we spend less time in front of our computers doing those manual tasks and instead get in front of candidates and clients, which is where people really like to spend their time. So it is all about top of funnel activity. We also believe humans need to be in the loop. We call it our human in the loop philosophy. So at all of the later stages, we have to have a human involved, and in many cases in person or in video. We have to have somebody that's involved in spotting a deep fake or making sure that there isn't somebody who's misrepresenting themselves in the process. So that's really critical for us. It's also changing who we hire, right? We have to hire people who are more agile, who are able to adopt AI themselves in the workplace. So it's not just the how we hire, but the who we hire.
Carl, do you have any insights on this from IBM?
I would echo almost everything that Catie said. I think for us, it's really about creating efficiencies for our recruiting team. So top of funnel, any sort of briefs and summaries that we would be giving to hiring managers, doing that. But we do want to make sure that that human element in terms of the decision making is still prevalent and is still part of the process.
Fantastic. Along those same lines, when we talk about using AI in hiring, people often want to know what's the return on investment of these tools? What sort of ROI are you seeing? Do you have any use cases, Carl, from IBM that you've found have worked particularly well for the TA function as it concerns AI?
Yeah, and I'll make it a broader statement and I'll come back to TA. So about 2.5 years ago, we decided to implement kind of what we call Ask HR for very rudimentary, what I would call repeatable things like I-9 when candidates start. And it was very radical for us. So we essentially reduced our HR function by 60%. And we ripped the Band-Aid off. Our survey scores plummeted that first year because everybody hated it. Everybody had to go to this agent to try to use it. And even within talent acquisition, when we were starting to acquire documents, when we wanted to extend an offer, all of our recruiters hated it. But what did we see over time as adoption and that the models got smarter and smarter is that those survey scores, those employee engagement scores started to go back up. But it drastically allowed us to reduce kind of our footprint, but increased our efficiency.
Mm-hmm. Any other panelists have any insights on ROI, any use cases they've found with AI that have worked particularly well? Or, no? Well,
particularly well. I mean, I think it's really hard to quantify, but for us, it's just, because we do have agency recruiters, executive recruiters in the field, they're all their KPIs, so to speak, on how much time they can spend with their clients, understanding their clients, tracking market trends, have all gone up because they're spending less time on things that are really manual. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're talking about some of the potential for AI to make the hiring process better. We also know that it can make it worse if not implemented correctly. There's this growing narrative that the hiring, the recruitment process is broken, and that can be due to a lot of different factors, including the way the labor market is right now. But with those criticisms of AI in mind, how are you all thinking about ensuring that your company's hiring process isn't becoming too impersonal or too hard to navigate? Fathima, you mentioned that TD is actually very much still manual, human-centered. So how does that affect the way you are thinking about this?
Yeah, it's funny because we're constantly out of campus, and then we'll have some students say, oh, do I have to do an interview and talk into a black box? And it just feels so impersonal. And we're not there yet, and so I always joke and say, no, a human looks at every single resume, every application, and so it's a bit of an internal joke, but that is kind of where we're at right now, and so we are finding what is that right balance between human and technology and the efficiency that technology will bring. And so for TD, we have just actually relaunched our brand, and our new brand is more human. And so with everything that we do, you may have seen the commercial during the Super Bowl, right? It's the little, you'll see a little bot that's like walking down the street. With everything we do, our ethos is remarkably human, refreshingly simple. And so technology is just rapidly changing every single element of our lives. And so at TD, we're like, we have to make sure that the human remains at the center of all of that. And so as we are, especially in an early talent space where just the application volume is insane, we need that efficiency, but doing it in a way that does not erode that candidate experience at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Carl, do you have any additional insights on how IBM has thought about ensuring that the hiring process still remains personal, even as you're investing deeper in AI for these purposes?
Yeah, it is the center. So with IBM, we are an AI provider to businesses, right? So one of the things that we say is we do it ethically and we do it responsibly. And I think that we do believe that at the very core of every experience, we have to focus on the things that are uniquely human that we can do, and where do we add value? So Catie, I think you said it really well, which is how are we spending more time with our hiring managers in TA? How are we spending more time with candidates and getting to know what the pipeline looks like for talent of the future and prepping that talent, right? So we're investing a lot in ensuring that like our talent acquisition team understands the various AI tools. We don't want the IBM tool to always win. We want the best AI tool to win. So one of the things that we say, and this comes from our CHRO, Nickel, we should be experimenting with all AI tools and figuring out which ones are the best for us. But I think that always identifying those things, those moments that are uniquely human is central to everything that we do, and it will continue to be central to everything we do.
Mm-hmm. Wanted to circle back to early talent, because I know, Fathima, you focus on early talent. When we're thinking about who might face challenges with an AI-driven hiring process. I think early career folks often come up.
Yep.
So do you have any advice for early career applicants who might be struggling to break through in a more AI-driven or automated hiring process?
Yeah, for sure. So within early talent, we get about 50,000 applications a year, and more broadly, we get about 2.5 million this past year of applications, which is 80% higher year over year. And so to the untrained ear, that sounds like, that's incredible, right? We're doing such a great job, we have a strong brand. But for our teams, it's like that application avalanche is insane. And they're not able to confidently say that they're surfacing the best talent at all times. And so what I say to students is you need to get out of the technology and really start to engage with our teams, because right now it's so much from a Gen Z perspective and an early talent perspective, spray and pray, right? And just like, let's see what I can hit. And so we are looking for those signals of intentionality. So are you coming to info sessions? Are you speaking to us and following up from career fairs? Are you joining different events? Are you connecting with recruiters? Those are the signals to us that indicate this is somebody who actually wants to be here. Mm-hmm. And then the second piece, what we're doing once they get here, is understanding how are they going to navigate that gap between school and the workforce. And it's funny because I'm now at that point in my career where I will be like, when I was your age, right? It's very different. But it's a very different workplace, and it's difficult enough for us to navigate who have so much experience and have been around for a while. Mm-hmm. But for those, for newcomers into the workforce, it's really difficult. And so we are taking time to speak to people managers to say, what are those gaps you're seeing when they're joining teams? We're speaking with students, what are you struggling with? And intentionally building programming that's going to both close that gap and also accelerate them through the organization.
Mm-hmm. Jean-Luc, I feel like retail, you probably see a fair amount of
well, especially in retail, and the connection with the customers is so important that we're always looking for people who can, get outside of the technology and really connect. And with EF, what we want to do is offer particularly the in-store experience. We want to offer that customer that moment and that human connection. That's what makes, the brand strong and why people come year after year. So we're looking for people who are intelligent in how they're connecting, their capacity to relate, their capacity to tell stories and to hear stories. And that doesn't hide in the technology itself. So I think sometimes students think, well, if I just do these specific things, right? Spray and pray, then I'm gonna differentiate myself. But they're differentiating themselves in the same way that everybody else is differentiating, which is not unique. So you really want to, we want to encourage people to think about what's particular to you, how can you offer your story, and that's a lot about getting to know yourself. That's a lot about sitting in your strengths and in your weaknesses and recognizing where those connection points are.
Mm-hmm. Wanted to ask about another challenge of AI just permeating the hiring process today, which is the potential for spam or bots to infiltrate your hiring process. We see countless examples of candidates using AI during applications or even during interviews. So where do you draw the line between what's a smart use of AI and what is maybe misuse of AI for this purpose? How are you maybe training your employees to and people on your team to spot cases of misuse? Catie, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, I think for us on the candidate side, and when we're coaching our candidates, and then also for me internally when we're vetting talent to join our organization, it's about preparation, not fabrication. And the fabrication is not always intentional because AI hallucinates, right? So you might unintentionally use AI to clean up your resume or to prep your interview notes, but you really need to vet what's been prepared for you. I even used AI to prep my own notes today, right? But I had to vet that all carefully and read through it and then add my own flavor because that human element is so critical. So for us, it's about the preparation side. There's no shame. In fact, we should be proud to use AI for preparation. It saves time, as should our candidates, but they cannot use it for fabrication. And then to go a step further, there's deep fakes aplenty in the market right now, right? And so we have actually built a spot the bot training We share it with all of our clients. Like, we let people use it. It's for the good of the world, frankly, but it just helps our recruiters to identify any deepfake interviewers. I don't know if any of you, I'm sure some of you, if not you, but people on your teams have seen a deepfake interview, and it actually can feel very real. So it's really critical for our recruiters in the field to know how to spot a deepfake interview quickly, and just frankly not to waste time or waste their clients' time with interviewing someone who's not even a real human being. So that's what we've done, which has worked really, really well for us.
Any other panelists?
Yeah, I would say for us too, it's really thinking upstream. What is it that we're really, really looking for? We don't have the kind of hiring volume that you do, so every hire matters. Every hire is both a sort of a now hire and a future hire. So thinking again, we've had to go back to the drawing board. What are we looking for? How can we be more skills-based? What does it mean to think about what are the competencies that really, really align to what's going to make a difference in our business, so that when we're engaging, we're asking questions that are not easily answerable by a machine, right? So getting beneath that, and that takes the work upstream for us. So.
Yeah, I can share. So at TD, like, there's a couple of things. So one, of course, upskilling our people managers around what to look for. Really easy things in terms of putting it into the meeting invites, right? Around like use of AI is not appropriate. We've now just introduced standards around one step of the interview process has to be in person. And so even if the hiring manager is not in that same location, where do you have a trusted peer that can actually step in? And you can still be virtual, but there needs to be that human in the loop at one point in the process. And then the last piece is also where we know that it's going to get used. So as an example, again, in early talent, we do super days with case studies, right? And so we went back and forth, do we do a case study on the spot so they can't use AI? Or we gave it to them 24 hours in advance, knowing that there should be a myriad of inputs, your work experience, your coursework application, your online resources, things like that, but how you put it together and apply that relevant context. And so we had somebody who interviewed with us for like a pre-executive role, and she talked about where she brought in all of these various inputs. And then she talked about how, and I also went and I visited a branch. And I spoke to a lot of the tellers on the front line to really understand what their pain points were. And so that helped to inform my final solution. And so it's really helping our people managers and our hiring managers be able to test and assess, like, where is this not just like a surface level answer, but it's okay that they use that, but how do they apply it accordingly?
Carl, any last thoughts on
Yeah,
this?
I would add thoughts on it. One is we've now made it up front, kind of similar to what you just said, which is any cheating with AI is unacceptable and will immediately disqualify you as a candidate. Just last week, we had a couple of, we're in a blitz right now trying to hire a bunch of early career, either interns or early career professionals. And what the interview said is, initially, you can tell that the candidates in the intro are like warm and bubbly, and they start the interview questions and they're looking to the side and they become very robotic in their answers. You could tell that like they have an AI bot that's answering the question and they're trying to parrot that answer, right? We immediately disqualify those people and we don't have them move forward. So it is rampant, and the deep fakes, we've had situations of that where it was the person was not in the country that they said they were. It wasn't even the actual person. Like when you think about that, you had an entire engagement and conversation with somebody, and it was not what you saw on the screen was not the actual person that ends up trying to show up on day one to come and work for the company. So we keep having to try to find ways to police this and to stay ahead of it, quite frankly, because this technology is accelerating at a pace that we haven't seen before.
As we're thinking about evaluating candidates in this more AI-driven talent market, we hear the term AI fluency a lot now in the job market. Companies are sometimes pouring investments into AI, which means they need candidates with a certain level of AI skills. Has that changed the way your organizations craft job descriptions or evaluate candidates? Maybe Fathima, you can speak to this from an early career perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's two parts. One is that we do often hear hiring managers or leaders say, oh, I need AI fluent, oh, I need PhDs, whatnot. And so we're helping to actually break that down and say, at what level of AI fluency are you looking for? Are you looking for people like us in HR that just have general AI fluency and will apply it to their work? Are you looking for AI implementers who will actually take a large initiative and be able to implement AI across? Or are you actually looking for PhDs who will be doing deep model development? There's different types of AI talent, and so a bit of it right now is educating a lot of these leaders on sort of that proficiency level. It's not just this one big bucket of I want AI talent. The second thing that we've done is we've actually just launched, like I was mentioning, this accelerated executive program, and we went out and it's AI based. So we are looking for folks who do have an AI background, who will come in and not sit on the technology side, but sit on the business side. And so that way, when we are launching large projects, we can remove the need to bring in consultants on the business side who would interface with technology. We actually have folks on the business side who understand AI and can interface with the technology folks in a really simple and easy way. But for that, while we are looking for that AI talent, a lot of the capabilities and characteristics we're looking for are insatiable curiosity, right? People who can really operate in the gray because it is changing so rapidly and the environment is so ambiguous. You need people who can operate in that and not only be comfortable with change, but really be that champion of change within your organization. Otherwise, it's just, these initiatives are going to kind of fall to the wayside. And so those are some of the skills we look for. And then we balance that against risk appetite. So it's not only good to be like, yeah, AI, let's see how we can use it, but are they asking the right questions around risk mitigation? Are they asking the right questions to determine, I don't think we need AI here, versus just rushing to AI as the solution? So that's the other side of it that we think is really critical around bringing AI talent to the bank.
So I think, in a way, the questions are still the same old questions. The fundamentals are actually more important now than ever, particularly because there is a lot of pressure for people to think AI and bring in AI. So really breaking down, as you said, what it means, what the level of fluency, what the level of capability that we're asking for, and at the same time recognizing that this is, there's some skills to be developed, right? In how people are able to interface, how they're able to utilize tools and think with them and think through them. And looking for that and figuring that out is still broadly something that we're figuring out together. So as an organization, we have an organizational initiative this year, having all managers, having people go through some learning, some training, some development. And we know that what that's going to raise is as people begin to hire, they're going to look for that mirroring in their hiring process.
Yeah. What I would add to that is, I love this quote, and I forget where I heard it, which is, AI is not coming for most jobs, but somebody that knows how to use AI is going to get the job, right? So one of the things that we say to early career, and right now when we hire software developers, we're like, what open source AI projects are you working on? Like, it's one of the questions that we ask as our interview question, to understand, like, are they being curious about what's happening in the AI space, right? Even when I'm hiring on my team, I'm like, what are you using? Are you using Copilot? How are you translating kind of like your interview briefing notes? Like, how are you presenting candidates? Just understanding where people have that intellectual curiosity about AI, to infuse that in every phase of the interview process and our HR process. So to me, that's the big lesson for folks that are early in their career, is to embrace this technology, realize it's kind of this transformational technology that over time will become more and more important to how we do work. And I think those are the people that are going to get the jobs of the future.
As companies are figuring out their strategy, AI strategy, they're confronted with questions about where do we invest, what's worth investing in and what's maybe not. As someone who covers this industry, I'm kind of overwhelmed by the market for AI-powered tools, whether it's talent acquisition or other types of HR functions that are on the market now. So curious about how your teams decide, what tools are worth investing in, where can you hold off for now? Jean-Luc, do you have any insights on this?
Yeah, I mean, as a smaller organization, we don't have the budget just to, do whatever. It's really about thinking about, what is this tool going to do for us, and really breaking that down, and not just buying a Cadillac when you need a wheelbarrow. So really thinking about what's our use and how are we going to connect that to a return on investment. So for us as a team, it's starting with what are the tools that we have access to at a free level and then maybe at one advanced level versus just a big enterprise project.
Catie, do you have any insights on this?
Yeah, I would say we start with the problem, right? What's the business problem that we're solving for? It can be really easy for you to just get an email from a senior executive with look at this cool AI tool, let's check it out, let's pilot it, right? Death by 1,000 pilots when you start to have thousands of those emails. So try and start with the business problem. For us, and for many of our clients, especially on the RPO side, the business problem is similar to what you were speaking to, which is the droves of resumes coming through, and how do you maintain a positive candidate experience, because there are many humans in there. There are some that are fake, but there are many humans in there, and they are your future customers and clients. So how do you take care of them? And on the RPO side, we're often hired so that people can basically outsource that aspect of candidate experience. We can give them that white glove care and service. And then what else can you do to create an excellent experience for those individuals, especially in a world where it's not just us that are experiencing fake candidates, but they're experiencing fake recruiters. They're getting a ton of fake recruiter outreach, which is not a great experience for them either. So we really try and focus on how can we leverage AI to provide an excellent candidate experience, surface the real human beings, and then really care for them throughout the process, whether they're hired or not.
As organizations are thinking about their strategy on AI, there's also a lot of different factors I imagine that can play into how bold or innovative they can be with this technology. Their company size, their budgets, organizational structure, or the regulatory environment, or are your executives bought into AI and the promise of AI? Yeah. Catie, do you have any thoughts about how that can affect to what degree you invest in this technology?
Yeah, I mean, LHH is part of the Adecco Group. We're 26,000 employees based in Switzerland. That is a very large company to navigate things like regulatory environment, compliance. I know the banks, we really have to be thinking about the risk part of this. So it can, if you want to use a new tool, it can be very slow to get the attention that you need and kind of go through the different hurdles, and rightfully so, because there's a lot of risk involved. We have to care for people and their data. And so it really comes down to executive sponsorship. So getting the right people involved at the conversation at the right time, being able to share, again, what is that business problem, what is the ROI, and then stand by that executive sponsorship so you can accelerate moving something that is really critical through. I will also say, I don't work for Microsoft, but we've been able to use Copilot to do a lot of the things that a lot of the little plug-in tools can do as well. It may not work for everyone, it has worked really nicely for us, so Copilot has been essential as we navigate our AI journey. And so we start with, can we do this in Copilot? Because then we're not introducing another tool that may not have the same level of information security and protections associated with it. So again, starting with those established tools is also quite helpful.
Does anyone else have thoughts on how things like executive buy-in are affecting AI strategy, or how you're navigating those concerns about regulatory environment that you referenced, Catie?
Yeah, I mean, I can speak traditionally TD has very much been this second mover advantage, where we've been let's learn from the first mover and then meet them at pace, right? And so, of course, being at a bank, highly regulated environment, and we know for TA, that AI ripple is so material, that's impacting hiring decisions, which then in turn impacts revenue, impacts culture, impacts risk and legal. And so we are saying that we know we can't be like, no, thank you, no AI for us, right? The risk is too high. But how do we move at a safe pace around that implementation? And so we're really saying for the AI, it's more about augmentation versus automation of decisions. And so thinking about that, where we're saying, okay, let's start with scheduling. That's going to create great efficiency for us, low risk. Okay, once we get to that, let's look at like screening intelligence, right? And so we're kind of taking it step by step around ways that we know we can get really good and feel comfortable and safe, and then continue to grow our appetite.
Can I just add to that? You made me think of something else as well. It's the readiness of the organization is so critical. And we talk about the hiring and the skills you look for in the hiring, but it's not just hiring. It's the onboarding people to the tools so that the people that you're talking to all along the way, when you do try and pilot something, that the readiness and adoption is there. I actually came through General Assembly, and General Assembly is part of the LHH, so if you guys know like tech skilling and AI training. So we've been using GA to help level up all the skills in our own internal team, actually, just to make sure that as we're trying Copilot, as we're trying other tools, that we're able to reap all the benefits and really see if a pilot works versus having a pilot fall flat because the people that are piloting the thing don't know how to write a prompt or don't really know how to use the agent. So that readiness is so critical. So instead of just diving into a pilot, make sure the people involved in that pilot are really ready to take advantage of the technology you're trying out.
Yeah, great insight. Jean-Luc, I wanted to put a question to you about DEI as it relates to AI. You oversee DEI as well at EILEEN Fisher, and we know that AI hiring tools can be biased, just as human recruiters can be biased. So, in your view, do you view these technologies as potentially helping efforts to make hiring more equitable, or are they hindering it? How do you see that?
I think they can do both. I think that in our capacity with talent, we have a real responsibility, to kick the tires, to lift up the hood, to ask the hard questions, and not just swallow whatever's being dangled in front of us wholesale. Because it's our responsibility to really safeguard the talent that comes into your organization. And you want to be able to bring in the very best talent. And we know that teams that value diversity, equity, inclusion, they just do better. And when you create an environment for that, then you really have access to the very, very best talent. And so you want to make sure that you're not doing anything that systematically reduces your capacity. That becomes the limiter for you. So really thinking that through from the talent place, even if you're not structurally situated in DE&I, is an important part of our responsibility. So asking the vendors questions, how has this AI been trained? What is it doing around these particular issues? And sometimes when it's not in your specific domain, people feel uncomfortable asking those kinds of questions, but I think it's that kind of cross and boundary spanning thinking that really adds value. So I think there's a real opportunity there.
Does EILEEN Fisher have an approach for auditing these tools for bias if you're considering them in the using them for the hiring process? Yeah, so we're still developing. I mean, we're a very early stage in terms of our thinking, but for diversity and inclusion fits into everything that we do. We take a broad lens, not just a event-based lens or a head count lens, but really a broad-based lens. So that's an important part of that. Any other panelists have insights on how their teams are auditing these tools for bias, whether it's in AI-driven decisions or human decisions that can happen in the hiring process?
I think on the sourcing side, regardless of tool, what we've seen is that, and you have to, so for those who have recruiting coordinators or sourcing teams under you, the tools that they're using can frequently base the target profile based on the people you already have in your organization, which inherently is going to repeat more of the same, which is biased in itself and is going to limit you from accessing other profiles. And so with good prompt writing training, when someone's going through that exercise of building their target list for candidates they want to source, they can challenge the technology and ask the technology through the prompt to look outside the box at different profiles. We actually have a market insights team that gathers candidate data to show us what are the different out-of-the-box profiles in addition to the regular typical profile that we'd be sourcing that can also have applicable skills that be a fit for this role. So it's really important to make sure, regardless of the technology you're using, that the teams are trained to challenge the technology to look outside of the typical profile it's going to unearth for you.
I wanted to end with just a question on what is still important from a human perspective in TA, and what can't yet be replaced by AI. Fathima, do you have any thoughts on what are the human skills that still remain really vital to the EA function and aren't yet replaceable by this technology?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, I think there's probably about 3 that we're really focused on right now. And the first one, no surprise to anybody in this room, but really moving from transactional to strategic talent advisor. And so a lot of that, especially in the early career space, we get a lot of enthusiasm from senior leaders around, you know what you should do? You should go and do this. And at my old company, we did that, right? Mm-hmm. And so really being able to pull back from that and not just be those order takers, but to build trust through insights, through data, through things like that, that will allow us to then push back on the leader around what's the right decision versus just the, okay, let's just do what they're asking. So I think that's like a really big one for us. The second one is around risk and just ethical governance. And so at TD, from a risk perspective, we have a know it, own it, know it, raise it, own it. And that's all about, it's not just that we're telling our TA teams, we want to get to 0 risk events, that's our goal. It's more that we want to surface 100% of risk events, right? And so again, goes back to how you build that trust with your teams, that they feel confident to raise the risk, to be able to identify it early and be able to raise it. And you really need that human in that process. And then I think the third one, coming back to the whole candidate experience. And so, applying for a job is so stressful, and getting a new job is definitely a milestone in a person's life. And so how can we be really additive and memorable in that experience, especially in the environment that we're in today?
Jean-Luc, Carl, Catie, any thoughts?
I thought that was really well covered. I mean, I think what differentiates is what is the experience that you're creating, regardless of where the person enters or exits the process for your team. Having them have an experience that respects them, having them have an experience where they feel seen. But that really means, as talent professionals, that we need to continually upskill, not just in the sort of the technical aspects, but actually in the strategic, in our own connection with ourselves. I often tell my team, you are the tool, right? It's your experiences, you've got to mine from the inside. So our ability to really connect with our own insights, that provides something in that conversation that a tool can't do, right? And an impersonal process can't do. So,
yeah. It is going to be repetitive, because for me, for us, it's about experiences. So NPS scores have never mattered more to IBM than they do now. For me, it's did the candidate going through our experience, even if they didn't get the job, say, I would go through another IBM hiring experience because I felt seen, because I felt like the process, like it didn't take forever. I knew where I was at every stage of the process, and I had a human being communicating that to me. It is on the hiring manager side where we say to the hiring manager, would you use our team again? Are you ever tempted, for those like me that probably struggle with, some hiring managers wanting to go out to agency, is would you use our internal team versus using an agency because you had an amazing experience that literally kind of took your breath away. And then the last piece is, how do we show up for each other within the talent acquisition team? So whether it is talent acquisition, HR, compensation, how do we create experiences between our team that make us feel like one team and that we are delivering a high quality, repeatable process that leaves everybody feeling like we're doing the right thing towards the company's mission?
Yeah, I think, just to kind of put a bow on what you've all already said, for us, our tagline is a beautiful working world. And for me, I love the optimism and the spirit of that. And I think everyone we hire, that the things that technology can't replace are empathy, our optimism and positivity in your day-to-day, that build those moments, that build that collaboration, that make the magic happen when we all kind of work together and appreciate how cool is it that we can be in this life, that we can work, that we can create these careers for people and have a part of that and hear their stories. So, that's not something technology is ever going to take away. And as HR and talent professionals, I think our jobs are the least replaceable with technology, frankly, because that is what we do and that is what we bring to the table. So I don't see that changing anytime soon.
Fantastic. Well, I've learned so much. I hope all of our audience has as well. Thank you so much for joining us, and have a good rest of your morning, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.